Today, we're talking about a tension every pastor feels, but rarely really talks about. What do you do when ministry starts hurting your home? You all probably have felt this. Maybe you're in it right now. You finally sit down for dinner and the phone rings. It's a hospital call or a text from someone in crisis. And suddenly you're torn, aren't you, between being a faithful pastor and a present spouse, a present parent. If you've been in ministry for any length of time, you have felt this pressure. I have to always be available. The needs, they never really do end. I mean, being a pastor is really like a 24/7 job. At least it feels that way. I mean, there's always another crisis, another meeting, another message to prepare. And the truth is, ministry never really clocks out. But here's the dangerous byproduct. Over time, the church can begin consuming all of your emotional energy and attention. You give your best, right, at the office or in the pulpit, and then your family often ends up getting just what's left. Listen, I know that pressure firsthand. When I was pastoring full-time, I found myself checking email at the ball fields, reviewing notes at the dinner table, and forget Saturday. I mean, I was thinking about Sunday from 2 p.m. on Saturday on, especially, when you're preaching. Eventually, and maybe this is true for you, but I realized something. I realized that I was pastoring everyone except for my own family. And if that pattern continues, the damage is pretty deep. Because when your home begins to fracture, your ministry at some point is going to follow suit. So here's kind of the reframe for me that really did change everything. And maybe this will be helpful for you as well. Your family is not a distraction from ministry. They are actually the foundation of ministry. Your family is not a distraction. They are the foundation for what you're trying to do. And I know you know this intellectually, but God never called you to build his church at the expense of your primary ministry, your home. If your family crumbles, your ministry is going to crumble too. Your spouse is sacrificing weekends, privacy, and emotional space. Your kids are growing up, think about this, in a glass house that they did not choose. Both of those people, our spouses and our children, I think they just deserve the same intentionality that you give your sermons and your ministry strategies. And listen, that's not selfish. It's actually great stewardship of ministry because, when a pastor neglects their family often neglects their faith. I mean, you've seen that. I've watched that happen so many times. Children of pastors walk away from the church, and it wasn't because of theology. In most cases, it was because of what they experienced at home from the guy that they thought was like God, who was kind of the God, I guess, in their eyes. In fact, what they did is they saw God take their parent away. They saw God take their dad away, their mom away. So what if, instead of sacrificing, the family for ministry, what if you treated your family as your primary ministry? That's what healthy pastoral leadership really does look like. You're not just leading people to Jesus, you're really leading your kids and your spouse towards him too. When I was leading at Woodstock City Church, I was a lead pastor for over 13 years there. And some of you know this, it was a very big church, so we had a lot of staff members. I remember one day, somebody was talking to me in my office, and they were having a pastoral conversation with me. And I hate to even admit this, but I didn't understand this early on in my ministry. When I was talking to the staff member, I realized, oh, wait, they attend this church too. They don't just work here. They attend here. They engage here. They give here. They serve here. They're not just a staff member, which means I'm not a boss. I'm their pastor. I'm not just there to lead them. I'm there to shepherd them, to use our church word. And if that's true for a staff member, how much more true is it for our family, for our spouse, for our children? I mean, I love and hate the thought, right, that our spouses give up so much when we decided to say yes to this calling. I mean, they said yes to it too, right? Your children, they didn't have a chance to say yes. They most of them, right? Because you're not probably if you have a child who's old, I guess you could ask them, right? If they're old enough to have an opinion about it and have a conversation. But I mean, man, when we were in South Atlanta and we moved to North Atlanta for me to become the pastor, lead pastor, my oldest kid was in third grade. My youngest was a 1-year-old, and we had 2 more in between. I couldn't really go to the 4 kids and go, hey, guys, how do you feel about moving into a glass house where everyone's going to watch you and everyone's going to ask questions and everybody's going to pay more attention to you and expect more out of you just because of me and just because of my job? I mean, they didn't sign up for that. They got thrust into that, which means that the ministry we have there, gosh, it's the most important ministry we're ever going to have. So let me just ask you a few questions that, I don't know, maybe are recalibration questions. Here's one. If my kids defined God based on how I treat them, what would they believe about God? It's a scary question, but if your kids define God based on how they felt treated by you, what would they believe about him? Next question. When was the last time that you said no to ministry so that you could say yes to family? And I don't mean that, you just said, no to something that was simple or whatever, but like, when's the last time that your family actually won that decision? And they needed to, but maybe ministry suffered because of it. Or church ministry suffered because of it. Another question, does my spouse feel like a ministry partner or a ministry widow or widower? Last question, if my calendar reflected my calling, would family look like a priority or would it look like an afterthought? Now, of course, we're never going to get all of this right, but I do think it's important to try to be intentional about it. So maybe this week you just say no one time. Maybe this week you sit down, at dinner and you just don't have your phone anywhere near you. Maybe you could celebrate your family this week like you would celebrate baptisms in your church. I mean, you know this, your kids don't need a perfect pastor. What they really need is a present parent. So remember, the most spiritual thing you might do this week is not preach another sermon. It might just be having dinner with your family without your phone within reach. And when you lead well at home, by the way, you're going to lead better everywhere else too. Hey, if this resonates with you in any way, I'd love to help you along this journey. I mean, I work with lots of pastors and churches, primarily around ministry strategy and discipleship pathways and better preaching. But every single church and pastor I work with, we end up also working on the interpersonal stuff, the emotional stuff, the relational stuff. I'd love to have a conversation with you about that if it would be helpful for you. You can reach me at my website, gavinadams.com, or you can also just check out our pastoral roundtables that I offer. These are just free, once a month for 1 hour. We take one topic and just unpack it together. I'd love for you to consider being a part of one of our leadership labs where we gather pastors just like you, and we work really hard to make one thing better over 4 or 5 or 6 modules. Either way, I just would love to help if you would like it. So until next time, keep leading with clarity and courage and with care.